This is the DIY Artist Route Podcast, a journey into what it takes to take your music or creative project to the right people, build your tribe of super fans, and growth farm for real, lasting success and maximum impact. That's my new favorite word. Favorite phrase. I'm D. Grant Smith. Thanks for joining me. Oftentimes, working in radio and working with DIY musicians, I get asked a lot about hiring a booking agent to get better gigs. When you get to the place where you're turning people down because you have so many requests to play, a booking agent can be your best friend. Until then, when maybe you're just trying to get booked in more places, there are other routes that you can take. Enter my friend Mark Steiner. Mark has worked as a booking agent for musicians and is the founder of GigSalad, an online booking platform for musicians, entertainers, and speakers to get more gigs. Today, he's going to tell us how to land better gigs, why you can be successful even if you live in a small town, how growth farming works for booking gigs, and a whole lot more. First, this DIY Artist Route Podcast episode is brought to you by Bandzoogle. Built for musicians by musicians, Bandzoogle makes it easy to build a beautiful website for your music. Their step-by-step system will get you online in minutes. You can choose from hundreds of mobile-friendly themes and then customize your design with Bandzoogle's easy point-and-click editor. Plus, all the features that you need for a professional website are already built in. You can sell your music and your merch commission-free right on your website. Build your fan list and send professional newsletters using the mailing list tool. Pull in content from all of your online services, including Twitter, Instagram, and SoundCloud. And get live support from their musician-friendly team 7 days a week. Plans start at just $10 a month, including free registration of your own custom domain. Go to bandzoogle.com and try it for free for 30 days and use the promo code DIYPOD to get 15% off the first year of any Bandzoogle subscription. Tons of musicians and friends of this podcast are using Bandzoogle to make their websites, and you can too. Use promo code DIYPOD to get the D. Grant Smith hookup. From the first conversation I had with Mark Steiner, I knew that he was a man after my own heart. He's big on building relationships and, most importantly, helping other people grow. He has a ton of great insights to share with us on the path towards growth for us today. Are you ready to get started? Good. Lace up those shoes and let's hit the DIY Artist Route. Well, Mark, welcome to the DIY Artist Route Podcast.
Glad to be here, D. Grant Smith. I'm excited.
So your platform, GigSalad, an online booking event center, links event hosts to entertainers, including musicians and artists and speakers and other performers. How did the idea for this thing come about?
It was a classic case of trying to fix a problem, and that problem was that I was getting slammed with correspondence, phone calls, and emails from wanting artists. Artists looking to better their career, looking for opportunities. They were looking for representation, looking for the random gig, looking to be listed on my roster. This was back in 2001. I went on my own that year. I'd worked at a small boutique booking agency for about 7 years, and then put out my own shingle and called it Steiner Talent. And my friend created a website for me, and I started getting contacted by these, what I refer to as your local regional sorts of artists that were trying to make a career. And that was not my business model. I was handling mostly established artists, middle brokering for national touring acts and celebrities and personalities, that level. And I was not looking to discover and develop artists. And so, but I had been a starving artist at a time in my life. I moved to New York to be an actor, and I could relate. I knew what these folks were going through, and I admired their pursuit and their passion and their ambition. And now that I was on the other side of that table, the one that was receiving the inquiries and looking, people were coming to me looking for opportunities. I felt obligated. I felt compelled to, at least just, speak to them, and if nothing else, provide a little encouragement and give them a that a boy or that a girl, and stick with it and keep going. I might not be the person that can help you right now, other than giving a little bit of pearl of wisdom, but just keep going. And those calls and emails kept coming every day. And every day I took a call that took me away from my business at hand, trying to make sales take place and make a living. And so I went to my friend, Steve Tatro, and said, Steve, I've got a problem. I want to be helpful, but I can't afford to be helpful at this rate. So we started to conceptualize, what maybe we could create a directory. We'll create another website that hopefully that one gets found, and those people looking for those opportunities can create a profile on this directory or this simple database. And then when the event planners are searching, the event planners were finding me as well. So, and I refer to event planners as everybody from a mom planning a kid's birthday party to a bride planning their wedding to a corporate event planner looking for a small jazz combo to play at their, sales meeting or something. And so the idea was, how can we bring these two parties together? How can we have them meet directly, and I don't necessarily have to be in the middle of it all? And that's GigSalad. I mean, that was it. It was back in 2001, 2002, 2003. Steve and I were always sort of bantering around, let's try to work together somehow, some way. Let's create a company. Let's do something. And when we finally honed in on this one, said, I think of all the stuff we've talked about, this is the one that makes the most sense. Let's do that. That was the beginning of it, and here we are.
Thanks for that story, man. That was awesome.
My pleasure.
There's so many different pieces to that would be cool to add and follow up on. One of those things, and something similar to you and I think this goes back to our first conversation together, but you aren't someone who, actually, I'll frame it this way. You are somebody that cares about other people. And so the people that are contacting you, you can't ignore their need or their interest. Even if you don't know them, like there's this heart and there's this compassion that's inside of you that's like, I want to be helpful as much as possible. And that's something that I feel very, very much too. And for you, people trying to get gigs and booking and stuff. And for me, it's people wanting to get their music on the radio. And I think that you and I are similar, and we probably have a very similar heart in this way, that like there's not like a switch. Tell me if this is true. There's not a switch for you that you can turn off and on that is your care switch. Like you can't just turn off the care switch and not care about people. You try to create something. You've created something to be able to give them that part of you that you can't give in real time to everybody. Is that kind of the way that you see it?
That's beautifully worded. And I would agree entirely. And I don't know if you can care to a fault. I know that my care, compassion, empathy, that just being able to relate, comes. It's not. I don't know that I was necessarily born that way. I think in my particular case, it came from a place of being so needy in my life. I needed a lot of care throughout my life. I needed, and I've been really, really fortunate to be, blessed to have a lot of caring people in my life. It's starting with my adoption. So, and whether that can be, that's not something that can be, sort of avoided. You take, I was selected, I was chosen, and I was cared for, and yet I still had I put a bit of a stigma on myself that that there was some form of rejection. There was some form of, I don't want you. I can't have you. And so I'm giving up. And fortunately, later in my life, I learned the real story, and it's a beautiful story. But I spent a great part of my life fighting that need. I felt weak. I felt like I was there was something not right with me. Like I didn't recognize a strength in me. I thought that I was always the one taking. And like I said, I was fortunate to have a lot of good people in my life that loved me throughout. And when I finally got hold of all of that, when I was finally able to start processing in a very mature, sort of adult way, and got to a place where, it's time for me to, I think, be a little less needy and be more of a giver. That's come out like a vengeance. I can't avoid it. I thrive on it, and it's in fact what I get to do here at this job every day. I've been able to be a part of cultivating people's lives and a culture here within GigSalad where this is absolutely what we promote. Like we love people. If you're going to work here, you need to love people, and it starts by loving yourself, and then you love those around you. And the most immediate, direct way is with your peers and associates, and then every phone call you take and every email we receive, we need to tend to those people's needs and wants and desires with a tremendous amount of presence. And that's and so my gosh, what's better than that? And meanwhile, while we're doing it, we have a thriving company, like a company that's profitable and growing and doing so well, but we don't approach it from the standpoint of money. That just happens to be a byproduct of us focusing on other people's needs. And oh my gosh, there's just nothing better in the world than that.
I'm so glad that you described the aspect of loving yourself first, and then that bleeds over into being able to give to others. That's been something that I don't know. I've been in this spot for the better part of this year, actually, in adopting that mantra right there, that like everything starts internally, and what we plant inside ourselves is the fruit that we produce that other people experience. And so yeah, way to go, man. That's super awesome.
Thank you.
One thing that kind of came from one of our first conversations, and it was surprising to me when you told me this, but then in retrospect and in looking at it reflectively, it's not surprising. And what I'm referring to is your location. There is a big misconception that a lot of artists have, and a lot of creative people and people that are entrepreneurial and minded and all this, that you have to be in a big city to be able to build something that matters, that other people will notice and be able to grow. And I live in a bedroom community of a small town. So small town down the street, even much smaller town. And there's this perception in my town. We've got 3 small Division 1, one Division 1 school and a couple of Division 3 schools, universities. But when a lot of people graduate, they say, well, there's nothing here. I've got to go to Dallas, or I've got to go to Houston, or, I want to pursue my dream. I need to move to New York. And I know you're not in New York, and I know that you're not in LA. You're in Missouri, right?
That's right.
And you have built this, as you described a moment ago, this thriving, successful company that connects people together and builds a dynamic future for people all over the place. And you're doing that without being based in this major metropolitan area. How have you done that, and why has being in a smaller town been so successful for you?
Okay. Well, yeah, slow and steady. That's how we've done it. And I think in terms of, for your example, talking about, graduates deciding that if they're going to make it, they have to leave that said town. And we see that here as well. And I know the local universities. I'm part of a committee that actually works with the University of Missouri here, or Missouri State. I'm sorry. We're here to, promote the opportunities that are right here, that they don't have to go back to St. Louis or Kansas City or further to their, either their homes or go to a bigger market in order to then start their careers. In my case, it was a choice of lifestyle. We relocated here from Connecticut. It was about, change of, we had some circumstances changed in our lives, and we thought, where do we want to go? What do we want to do? And we were both independent workers, self-employed workers. My wife's a violinist, and I was running my agency, and we could do what we do from anywhere. And we chose Springfield, Missouri. It was where Allison is from, and it had a low cost of living. It was a nice place to raise a family. And that's what brought us here. It was a choice about, personal choice first and foremost, and I thought I can do what I do with a phone and computer anywhere in the world. I can sit on a beach if I want to. At that stage, I was working in my pajamas, and that was a simple one. So we moved here, and I think it really is a question of entrepreneurial spirit. If you graduate from a college and think, I want to go work for this corporation or that corporation, and in order to do so, you have to go to Silicon Valley or you have to go to New York or whatever that is. Well, that is what it is. If that's a goal, I want to work for that brand, or I want to work within that industry, and I want to do, and I'm not interested in doing my own thing, then you have to go where the opportunities are. But I think if you do have a little bit more of an entrepreneurial spirit, and you think, I want to be the master of my own destiny, and I'm going to start my own company. Well, in those cases, you can do it from anywhere. You can, especially in this day and age, you just start to do, and you figure out within the parameters of what you've got, if how to just make that happen. And if you're in it to win it, and you are, ambitious enough and passionate enough, then you'll find your way. And that's how we did it. It was Steve, my business partner, co-founder of GigSalad. After we moved here, he moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, and it's a very similar size community. And we have two offices now that we have 15 or 16 or so people in Springfield, and there's another 10 or so in Wilmington, and now over the past couple of years we started to welcome remote workers, and we have 3 people on the team that do what they do from their homes in Nashville, New York City, and Colorado, Denver, wow. Colorado. So I think it is all what you make of it. I never looked at this and said, man, we can't do it here. I never thought that. I certainly thought it's a little more difficult to do sometimes in places like this, because your talent pool just isn't as deep. And sometimes the talent itself is less experienced. And for us, in our part, we just took that and said, well, we can only do what we can do. So we found people that we liked, people we thought we could work with, people of strong character, and sort of we thought will fit into this culture well. And as I referenced before, they were cultivated here. There's people that have learned some amazing skills. Like I'm very happy. I'm glad to know that we have helped to make people at GigSalad extremely marketable. Like there's people here that could go out and get perhaps better jobs or better paying jobs someplace else because of skills and talents that they learned here. Us recognizing strengths, helping them to learn things that they're possibly prone towards or have a propensity for, or have a natural gift at, and we monopolized on that. And so that's thrilling. And you referenced there too about how to help people here right in a small town community like this. And one of the things that was brought to my attention recently by my in-house accountant is that she had received application for, had to write letters for 4 different mortgage applications in the past couple months. And I can tell you, and I mean this with complete sincerity, that there's not much else I've experienced while being here that gave me a better sense of pride. Like, I know there's just the sheer thrill that we have been able to be a part of putting people into home ownership. And people, people have gotten married since they've been here. They've had children since they've been here. But to say we've provided enough stability to put people into owning a home has just been over the top, absolutely over the top. And I'm talking about more than profit and growth and anything else. Is that because at the end of the day, this isn't the Mark Steiner show. It's not about me and Steve. We've never set into this to become filthy rich and to do it on the backs of the workers. It was, hey, come along with us and let's grow together, and we're going to share this as we go along. And I believe we've been true to that, and the proof's in the pudding. So
very awesome. It's very clear that you believe that relationships and cultivating people are a driver for your success. What you described a minute ago about, cultivating people to make them remarkable and recognizing their strengths, that is such a very uncommon thing for a workplace to have. Was there a model that you adopted, or was it kind of, as you were building your company, you were creating the place that you always wanted to work?
Oh, that's an interesting twist on the end there. That's funny, because I would have immediately answered yes to the first part of that, but the second part of it's true too. And I think that's exactly indirectly and perhaps unconsciously, but maybe I was more conscious of it than not. But yeah, I created an environment. I'm definitely the wizard behind the curtain there that was all along sort of making a place that was exactly what I wanted. And where did I want to go every day? What was the world, the fanciful world that I wanted to walk into, and who were the people I wanted to work with, and how did I want those conversations to go, and what did I want what was the paint color on the walls, and all of that. It was very much like, life is far too short to be doing anything I don't love and I'm not enjoying. So let me do that. While doing that, it was care. It was back to the point of I didn't know how to do it any other way. I couldn't fake it any other way. I don't have a business degree. I don't have any degree. I went to a very brief stint of college at a small community college in New Jersey, liberal arts college, and took an acting class or two, which is because that's what I wanted to do. And that it lasted 1 semester. And I went on the road. I auditioned for a children's theater troupe, and I went on the road and did about a 6-month run, going into schools across the country and doing this educational piece on Andrew Jackson. And when that was done, I moved into New York and broke into the movie business. That was my path. And I was not a particularly good student. Somehow I got through by the skin of my teeth. I know the things that interest me. I do know now, today, what my strengths are. And I always went that path. I just went with what came natural. And what's come natural to me is a more emotional intelligence. And that, I feel comfortable there. I can talk about my feelings. I can talk about other people's feelings. I can talk about relationships. And I think that those are the driving forces to any successful business. So that those things, and I'm talking about a healthy, holistic sort of business, not just one that goes out there and makes a ton of money, and is profitable and pays people well and provides just sort of that material sort of security. I'm talking about a place where I want everybody to feel the same way I do when they come through the door every day. So starting here with my team is I want people to love what they do. And hopefully I can figure out a way to provide a means to do that, to do their strength while I GigSalad. And if not, then if we part ways, it's with admiration and good luck, and we're still friends, and go find your bliss kind of things. We couldn't find, you didn't find it here. That's okay. I'm not so presumptuous to think that GigSalad is the answer for everybody. But those who do choose this, and we do come together, it's in the effort of let's live life. Let's live it to the fullest capacity we possibly can. Let's have fun. Let's be happy. Let's find peace and tranquility. And while doing so, let's do well for other people. And if we do that, if we provide the very best service and product for people, then they'll keep coming back, and we'll make money, and we'll make a living, and everybody should be happy. And it's really that sort of approach that I've taken, because I can't, like I said, I can't do it any other way. I can, I'm finally at a place where I can look at ledgers, I can look at balance sheets and profit and losses, and I understand it all. But it's not something that came supernatural to me. But I knew this much. I figured out a way to run a really healthy, successful business. And I've done it, and by not being that smart, frankly, I'm just not that. I'm a dreamer, I'm an inventor. I'm an artist. I think more than anything. And, but I've been extremely blessed and fortunate to find people to partner with and complements my weaknesses. And we are just an amazing team right now. So I hope that answered your question.
Actually, you answered several questions.
Okay, great.
As somebody that I work for myself, and I've got clients in a variety of fields, but everything you described is kind of the dream work environment. And I was just I make little clicky sounds here because I'm typing notes during these conversations. But I made this note here: Mark is the kind of person I would want to work for if I were to work for anyone else again. Wow,
that is extremely kind, and I receive that, my friend. That is an awesome thing to say. Thank you.
Well, very true, man. Very true. Now, you have shared a lot of your heart, and I really appreciate that. I want to ask a question that dives into a little bit of your story / personality / interests, and still has that heart piece. As an artist, you are probably... Actually, I'm certain you're a fan of music. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a plan. You wouldn't have a platform that helps musicians. I'm curious, who is your favorite band or musician, and why?
Oh, wow. That been talking a little bit about this lately. Sort of on you're left on a deserted island, and what's the one artist collection that you could have with you, or what 10 CDs or whatever. And so just yesterday Steve and I were talking about this, and I was listening to Genesis, and I had answered that question probably a couple months ago to a friend at a little dinner party we were having, and somehow like Genesis came to mind, and it wasn't the first thought, but I think even my wife might have said that, and it's like, yes, oh yeah, right, Genesis, of course, like what a collection. I could live off of that. But there's a couple, 2-3 folks that have had the greatest impact on me from young, and the first would be Ray Davies of the Kinks. To say that music sort of saved me or sustained me, kept me going, that's absolutely the case with did I have an angst-ridden youth? Not really. I mean, I had a pretty charmed upbringing, never for want of anything, pretty straight in the middle class. my parents were just good folks who were just knew how to take care of us without spoiling us. But, sometimes it felt like, we got anything we wanted to, but it was a really good balance. That said, I found a way to complicate all of it and figure out how to be confused and, wanting of more and trying to figure out adoption and what was that about and all that stuff. And so I definitely turned to music, and it absolutely saved me. There's no question that songs kept me alive, and just so many Kinks songs. That was the case. I can't say anything more about that. And I had the good fortune of meeting Ray Davies once, and it was like meeting a god. He was absolutely the icon. And so brilliance. Ray Davies, one of the greatest songwriters ever. And there's so many in between. I mean, so many genres, so many, I'm looking at the pile of CDs right now, and I've got everything from Brian Wilson's Smile and Genesis and the Beatles. I just watched the Beatles documentary, and everybody should go see that. The Ron Howard piece, 8 days a week. I saw it Saturday night, and just like, Beatles. Yeah, I mean, it's so cliche, but any and all things Beatles and all of them. So there's my multi-leveled answer to that question.
Awesome. What would you say is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Maybe something along the lines of do what you love. Don't let others define you. Be an individual. I guess in summary, it's probably love yourself. That's been the biggest breakthrough in my life. I turned 50 this year, and it took me the better part of 50 years to get to that place. I spent the past 10 years really hunkering down and very concerted effort to get healthy in all aspects. I mean, real, true, whole health of my mental, my emotional, my spiritual, my physical, right down to like I'm as in good a shape as I've ever been, and certainly in the past probably 25 years in terms of my weight. And I just feel like I've been shedding this baggage, not just fat, but all the stuff that got me there. And it's been a 10-year, I've been on this path for a really, really conscientious, intentional, I'm going to be the very best me that I can be. And I learned that I finally got it, that it starts with me. Like, you have to be selfish. So maybe that's it. Dare to be, you got to be selfish. Go be selfish. I didn't give myself permission to be selfish before, in a healthy way, to pay attention to myself, make sure that I'm creating the best me that I can, because without that, you can't give anybody else anything any good. So, scripture will, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, it starts with loving yourself. You ever see people out there mistreating other people, doing bad things to other people, from terrorists down to pickpockets, or those who litter the world? They're just expressing what they feel about themselves. And I feel sad for that. I finally found a place of non-judgment in that. Like, that's what people want to do to other people, to kill them, to hurt them, to do bad to them. It starts with themselves. They have no care and love for themselves, and that's the saddest thing in the world. The judgment's there. That's all you need to know. And so, in some ways, that's how I was. I didn't love myself enough for fully or completely, and I so wanted to love other people. And so when I finally figured out how to love myself, I've been able to be a good servant to others. So love yourself, or be selfish. I guess that's been the most consistent, sort of persistent message that I've heard and received, again, especially over this past 10 years or so. And you don't have to be 50 to get there. Anybody younger listening to this podcast, start now. It's taken a long time to get here, but I'm fully ready for second half of life now. I'm so ready to live big and large. Go ahead.
Let's dive into this for a minute, because there's a lot that you've said there. For me, from what everything you just said, the anchors, all that stuff together was what you said when you said, "I wanted to love other people."
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't love myself. For me, that part has to be there. Otherwise, the be selfish thing doesn't matter. There is, and this is my perspective, but there is far too much selfishness that is bred every single day all over the place, and people that seem to only give a crap about only themselves. They don't see other people and have value for that. And so I think that there needs to be a balance, and in order to truly love others really well, you do have to have love for yourself and plant good things within yourself. But if all you focus on is you, then you lose that perspective of seeing value in other people, and you can't reach them, and they can't give you what it is that you think that you want, because it becomes everybody trying to live on their own little island and be King Conan. How does that jive with you?
Well, yeah, I would actually argue that when you see selfish people, when you say, oh no, that person is being selfish, or that's a characteristic, that's how you define them, then I would argue that they don't love themselves. That's not love. That's insecurity. That's inferiority. That's low self-esteem. Those are people that are grappling. Those are people that are trying to figure it out. But I wouldn't say that they necessarily love themselves. If you truly love yourself in the purest sense of the word, that you're patient with yourself, you're patient, kind, not rude. You have compassion and love. Like you take care of yourself. Then the absolute natural manifestation of that is that's what you give to others. It just oozes out of you. So if you have people that aren't expressing love, then they're not loving themselves. But, for the most part, if you get people that love in a purest way, and I'm talking about a healthy way, then you know that somebody's in a good spot, because they have it to give. But you can only give what you've got. And you don't want to keep what you got if what that thing is love. I would just say that I think that we agree in the concept. I think we're saying the same thing. I've learned from myself and how I approached myself, and that for a long time. Let's even put it this way. In my insecurity and within my life, the things that I often focused on, my inadequacies, my weaknesses, the things I hated about myself, loathed about myself. Those times when I was so focused on those things, not necessarily making them better, not figuring out a constructive, productive way to deal with those things, but rather hating myself because of those things, feeling that I was I wasn't worthy. I wasn't, I was not lovable. That's a tough place to be. And that takes work to get out of there. I mean, it takes processing, it takes counseling, it takes therapy, it takes, people that are qualified and have the capacity to go there and bring you along and walk along with you and process it and help you to get to a better place. And so, but when I either went from places of I would focus on others entirely because it served as a distraction to myself. I didn't have to think about myself. And those were wonderful times when I could focus on others and I cared for other people. And I've always been a great listener, and I've always wanted to. I'd much rather hear your story than tell mine. That's the way it used to be, and that was good. It was good, a good sort of place for me to go as a distraction sometimes, And then in the quiet moments when I start to reflect about myself, and I was so displeased, then that was a place of where it really started getting confusing, and there was conflict because it was why is that person or that person so lovable and I'm not? And that's a whole, you can psychoanalyze all of that and how one gets there. But the point is that I think the love I'm talking about, the self-love that I'm talking about, when I use the term selfish in great big quotations, it's about knowing that you must love yourself first in order to do any good in life. I believe that. And then when you talk about the divine and the spirituality of all of that, if you're talking about sort of first circle stuff, circles of relationships kind of thing where, what do you put in that inner circle? that's the place where I believe in God and the divine and having a spirituality and what is the thing that's even bigger than you, greater than you. And it starts there. So I think that those two things are one and the same. I think having a faith and loving something outside of yourself, meanwhile, while loving yourself is two great things. And then you can start talking about those circles that come outside of that next one. That's like an intimate relationship of a significant other. And then after that, those really tight, those tight sort of friendships that are like no other. And those, can any one person have more than a handful of those? I don't know. I don't think so. And then acquaintances and on and on and on. But it starts with, making sure that you're rock solid first, that you're being healthy.
I think that, like you said, I think you and I have very similar views on this stuff. We're looking at it from different prisms.
Yeah.
But interesting enough that you were talking about your story over the past couple of years, that this transformation has been taking place, and I can link with that too, man. I've found value in the way other people see me. I've spent a lot of my life not believing in myself and wanting that validation from other people, but not giving it to myself. And then, I think a very similar way to what you described with your story, like doing a lot of reflection and a lot of meditation, or however you want to describe it, where it's like, okay, in order for me to have these connections with people that I want to have, I've got to spend some time focusing on me and getting some things right. And the thing that I've learned that I think is very similar to what you described, and this might be another way of phrasing the methodology that you just described. I believe that our hearts are gardens, and what we cultivate and plant inside turns into fruit that we produce with our thoughts and our actions and our attitudes, and that is what we give to other people. If we want that to be good things that people will come to us for and be blessed by, then we need to make sure we're doing an active and a proactive job of planting those things within us on a regular basis. If we don't want that, and we want people to be pissed off and and dislike us and be turned off and have tension and rivalry and anger and all those kind of things, then plant the bitterness and the jealousy and the envy and the hatred and all those things that are far too common too. So, like you, like I'm working in feeling more fulfilled and more whole. And I think that if we were to take both of our prisms, as we've talked, looking at some of the same things through these different filters, I think that at the whole of at the crux of what you and I are both talking about is this pursuit of personal wholeness. And when that happens, we have the opportunity, and we're in a better place to be able to give and receive from other folks and have the things that we want.
Yeah, right. I think the heart as a garden metaphor is beautiful. I agree with that entirely. I'm right there with you. I do think we are saying the exact same thing.
One more question about your platform. Referring to GigSalad, there's a lot of booking that is all about GigSalad, matching musicians and talent with people that are needing those things. What are ways that musicians can stand out to event planners and booking agents and so forth to be able to gain those kinds of opportunities?
Yeah, well, we are a traditional. We're a marketplace. We're an online marketplace, which is a phenomenon that's whether it is Amazon or eBay or what have you, that started off as do a lift and a car ride. There's marketplaces for everything, and we just happen to be in a niche of our own. Ours is an event marketplace, and it is it's a booking platform for entertainers and performers and speakers, and that's what this originally started off. I referenced that it was started off as a database, just a place to connect, and then much later we created a full-fledged sort of booking system, a way to actually book that artist directly on the platform. We originally was just, hey, we're just bringing two parties together, go figure it out. Pick up the phone and talk to one another, or send each other an email, and off you go. And but we've made that a much more seamless process where you find, you book, you're done. And it's pretty savvy system we have. How to stand out the same way that you would in any of those other places. You go and take an Uber ride, and that you get out of the car, and the first thing you do is you rate that driver, right? I mean, you're asked to anyway, and I'm going to be more inclined to accept a ride from a guy who has 5 stars than I am one who's got 2. And it's the same thing on GigSalad. We're wanting to get our platform to a place where every booking takes place on GigSalad. If a lead came to you through GigSalad, then we'd like you to book that gig through GigSalad. And it's not just to add extra revenue into our pockets, though that's important. We're able to manage that process and that experience a little bit more and make it better for everybody when it's done. And from collecting payments and sending out payments to that review system and all of it. Just so that when an event planner comes to GigSalad, like what you're asking, how do they find the best person first, and who's the standout? And they get to book that person and then go and have a really memorable experience. That's what we're in. We're in the memory business. So how to stand out? Just that. Do a great job. Book things and go and wow the event planner and get them to put a 5-star rating because you showed up on time and you didn't show up drunk and you played what you said you were and you looked like you dressed professionally and you had a good attitude and blah, blah, blah. The stuff that anybody or everybody should know if they're trying to make a career in anything, frankly. But, in the entertainment business, it is what it is. It's all about image. It's all about reputation. And so put your best stuff out there. And you'll not only, if you put your best stuff out there, starting with video and pictures and content, what you say about yourself, your bio, your whatever it is, put all that best stuff out there so that number one, you'll get more leads as a result. And then ultimately more leads should, as long as you have the ability to close, more gigs and get great reviews on those gigs and repeat. It's that simple. This is not rocket science. We want to make it so that artists can be artists, be creative, go and hone your craft, go and practice, and hopefully GigSalad will be a service that will, at a minimum, supplement your income. I'm not saying that anybody and everybody on GigSalad is making a full-time living doing what they do. That's not what we're there for necessarily. For those who that does work for, we're thrilled. Just as I talked about before, we can put somebody into a mortgage by working at GigSalad. We're thrilled that people put food on their plates for their families because they're getting gigs through GigSalad. That's what we want you to be able to do. You go do your work. We'll do ours. The leads will come to you. You go book. Everybody's happy, and that's a seamless process.
Awesome. Mark, it's been a joy talking to you, man. Always great to connect with people who share a very common ethos. And thank you for being with us, and thank you for your insights and for your beautiful story about love.
Thank you, D. Grant Smith. You are a great interviewer. I've appreciated the opportunity, and thanks.
Mark Steiner, founder of GigSalad, where musicians, entertainers, and speakers can land better gigs. Get set up with your own profile and look me up at GigSalad.com. Mark just gave us a ton of great insights into the art of community building, which is what I talk about in the growth farming framework detailed in the DIY Musician's Radio Handbook. Get your paperback copy right now at dgrantsmith.com/books and the Kindle version at amazon.com. Speaking of growth farming, I have a lot of fresh new material that I am building. I'm going to be sharing with you in the next few months. Email subscribers to dgrantsmith.com are the first to get access to everything that I have. So go get signed up right now to my growth farming email at dgrantsmith.com. What we enjoy and what connects with us, we share with our friends. So share this episode now with your friends. I appreciate that. This podcast is all about growth and building connection, and I appreciate you doing your part. We'll pick up again next time with a new journeyman to teach us more about how to grow as artists, creative entrepreneurs, and human beings. Be uncommon this week, my friend, and keep growth farming. I'm D. Grant Smith. I'll see you next time here on the DIY Artist Route Podcast.